This is Thomas, and welcome back to Refined Leadership. Last time we ended talking about the fear of success and the fear of failure. Now you have some tools to actually go and tackle those couple of topics. And if you recall, I ended the video saying next time I wanted to talk about different sources of fuel. And for this video, I figured I'd go prepare some herb-crusted beef sirloin medallions for this. So I've never done this before, so we'll give it a shot. But I believe it was Jesus that said that humans live on more than just food alone. Now, while herb-crusted medallion serves as a traditional, or rather a fantastic source of calories in a food, it got me thinking about, what do people fuel themselves with from a work standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint? Because food is just one of these things, but it's not everything. It's really just to feed the machine. Of course we're gonna need calories. We're gonna need electrolytes. We're gonna need all sorts of good things. But what we're gonna need more than anything else is something that keeps us motivated, something that keeps us disciplined, time and time and time again, no matter what the circumstances is. Especially if you're going to be someone who is consistently on top of their craft, on top of their game. And someone who really, more than anything else, wants to be, the very, very best in the world at what they do. And it's a person who is going to be at least more than competent, who is going to be most deserving of those leadership positions and actually voted in and put in some of those leadership positions. So today we're going to be talking about different sources of fuel. But before I get to that, make sure that you like and subscribe to this video to keep up with more peak performance, effective communication, and leadership content. Make sure you go into the link in the description and download the Refined Leadership Blueprint, where it's 108 pages just talking about how to be a better person, how to be a better performer, how to be a better communicator, and most of all, how to start becoming a better leader. The resource is still free, so while you still have the chance, go on the link, go and download it, and go get your journey started today for becoming more of a refined leader. So, different fuel sources. A lot of people talk about the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is short, it is for short bursts of energy, it does not sustain you. Discipline is long-term. Discipline gets you away from the motivation sort of worldview, and it really gets you out of bed no matter what you feel like, really. And that's sort of the big motivation behind all of this, no pun intended, is that if you want to be motivated consistently, you got to get away from motivation. Motivation is such a short-term source of fuel that you really want to only use it for its intended purpose, which is to get you started. So a lot of people like to go demonize motivation as this source that, how would you put it? It's a source that really is associated with a lot of videos like this one, or something with inspirational music in the background, or something that like wakes up the fire inside of you, that starts a fire that gets you excited about just being alive. And then they would say, no, but it's such a short-term thing. It's an emotion. It's in and that's out. Just the same way that you have resources for short-term sprints, you should be using motivation just to get you started. It's a catalyst more than anything else. A catalyst is what gets you out of bed and gets you on the racetrack. It's great. It's perfect as far as getting things started goes. Now, discipline is sort of that long-term resource. It's what happens when motivation goes away and you got to go deal with some nonsense for some period of time right afterwards. But what you're doing with repetition, motivation goes away. Repetition is what invites discipline into your life. And in that discipline, you now get to actually forget. You get to actually forget that you were doing work in the first place. I would give an example, for my client this past weekend, I would give an example of you think about your heart beating. Your heart has beat every single moment of every single day since the moment you were born. I'm 30 years old, so going on 30 years now. I don't even know how many days that is, an uncountable number of hours, and even more uncountable number of minutes, and even more in terms of seconds. But I never complain about my heart being tired. It's so overworked, it's so tired because I've been my heart's been beating all day long. I just need to take a nap. I just need to take a rest so they could rest and recover. You don't think about that because your heart has been beating ever so consistently, you just forget about the tiredness behind it. What if you could do that with the work that you're doing, where you're getting beyond the state of motivation, beyond the state of even thinking about discipline, and it's just something that you are. It's something that you become. And really, when I think about things like what sort of fuel sources you utilize, motivation is absolutely necessary and crucial for the start. Because without that, you're probably just going to sit in complacency and, big whoop for you. You need that something to get you started. What comes after it is that discipline that comes in the form of habit. If you have habit, you can be consistent with that habit. You'll find yourself in a place where you just find it more awkward to not do the thing than to actually go after it. Which that's worth mentioning is that that discipline has been developed when the thing that you once found to be difficult, hard, excruciating, painful, uncomfortable, you now find it more uncomfortable to not do that thing. It's like for someone that, like myself, brushes his teeth every single day, many times twice a day. If I find myself in a place where I'm not doing it, it's actually more uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable, it's dirty, it's weird, it's icky. I just don't want to go play around with it. It feels more uncomfortable to not expend calories than it is to actually go and expend calories. So really keep that in mind, is that that you've built discipline when it's now more uncomfortable to not do the thing than it is to actually go and do it in the first place. And what happens after that, it just becomes something that you are. It becomes like the person that you are, and then the next thing you really have to go deal with is just really dealing with the mechanics of your actual body, the actual part of your body that's the actual food sources. And back when I was fasting, however long ago that was, it's about a year ago at this point, I was fasting. I fasted for 40 days straight. No food, just water, and just electrolytes. And it's so funny to see what happens when you only consume water and electrolytes over that time period, because you're not giving yourself any fuel sources. What happens is your body starts going into itself to start converting its own fat into fuel sources. So, that's one form of fuel. It's like your body literally goes into ketosis because it's not eating any, glycogen, any sugars, any glucagon, any of the other sort of resources in your body. It starts feeding off of that. But I noticed something really, really funny when I wasn't feeding off of sugars or even proteins like this, for example, or even fats, but my body was feeding off of itself. What I noticed is that on a biological side, that electrolytes were energizing. I would have water, but I would also supplement it with my fasting salts. And what I noticed from that is that the electrolytes were giving energy back to me, which really kind of twisted me around in terms of how I thought about energy, because I thought if I was tired, I should just go and take a nap. Many of you might think if you're tired, you could just go and take a nap and you'll feel better after that, and that's correct, because your body is recovering something. It's giving you time to kind of go down and rest, relax, and go recuperate so you can build yourself back up. But it's not just a nap. What I discovered, and furthermore, it's not just caffeine, for example. A lot of people like to mask the problem with some caffeine instead. What I discovered is that electrolytes was actually waking me up, which if you actually look at the neuroscience behind it, when your brain is shooting information from one neuron to the next, it's actually shooting sodium in one direction, and then potassium in another direction. And what's happening is creating this action potential. The exchange of electrolytes creates electricity, and in that electricity, your brain gets to go work. Now, there's a weird little pump inside of your brain called the sodium-potassium pump that's consistently putting the sodium and potassium back where it started. And that takes a lot of energy. In fact, that takes, I think, more than 50% of your brain's calories. I forget if it's your brain's calories or if it's your body's entire calories to get you back to a homeostasis. For the other ones, it's literally just a diffusion process. It just needs to open up. It's actually, it's easy to go do it. Again, why it feels easier to do things in the morning than it does in the evening, or for night people, it feels easier to do in the evening than it does in the morning, because your body is just sort of like, and the brain just sort of flipped around and like that. But on a biological level, having a little bit of electrolytes actually energizes you to a point where it's like I'm starting to recommend, a lot of people know about the whole bulletproof coffee thing, where you put some butter inside of your coffee, and then you get to have that smooth, steady release of caffeine throughout the day. What I'm starting to do is I will have a glass of water. Well, first I'll rinse my mouth off because I want to get any bacteria out of my mouth. But I'll have a glass of water with some electrolytes first. and then I'll go and have coffee. I'm not crazy enough to actually dump the electrolytes or the salts into my coffee. I don't want to be the name that's behind the salted coffee, you know, because actually if you do put your salt in your coffee, or if you put fasting salts or electrolytes, just something inside of your coffee, you could actually feel even more energized and jacked up than just having just caffeine. But without digressing too much, that's one of these fuel sources that actually deals with your body. But the one I'm most excited about talking about today, before I end this video short, because these steaks are just about to be done, the one thing I want to talk about is what fuels your spirit. Okay? When I was fasting, I discovered that I couldn't just want to, but I needed to do the things that actually gave me joy, that actually fueled my spirit. One of those things is I like creating things for the enjoyment by others. I want to create things that others can go and enjoy. And through that process, I discovered, my body and my spirit actually desires this stuff. It actually feeds off of it. And that's how you know if you're doing good work. If you want to think about what should I be doing with my life, what sort of labor should I be entertaining, what should I be going after with my life, what sort of industry should I be entering, there's a business answer to that question, which we'll talk about later. But as far as where you want to start, you want to find the things that fuel your spirit. Because if you can go and find the things that actually fuel your spirit, you're putting yourself in a situation where you wake up and you are the thing that you go after. It's not that you do the thing that you go after, but you become the thing you go after. If you think about your competition that's just trying to go do the thing, trying to keep up with you, it's like, how do you keep up with a natural? How do you keep up with someone who is born to do some of the things that they're doing? And you're born to do 150 trillion things, and you get to decide which one of those things you want to go and do. There's not a correct or an incorrect answer, but what I would say is the more correct answer is the one that actually fuels you. You feel more energized because you went and did it. Now, this doesn't mean that that's a fixed set of items that you happen to be really enjoying. You would find enjoyment in speaking, or enjoyment in cooking, or enjoyment in doing managerial tasks, or enjoyment in being an effective leader. You could shift around on these items. You could really shift around these items in a way where all you have to do is be able to design your work in a way that it can induce high flow states. If you could create your work and design your work in a way that induces high flow states, you can enjoy anything that you want, or anything that your brain and body is willing to go do. You could even think about things that gave you a lot of joy when you were a kid growing up. I like playing a lot of video games. I like playing with the other kids in the schoolyard in my neighborhood. That made me an excellent technician, an analyst, and maybe an excellent leader, and someone who knew not only how to go and engage on a technical level, on a mathematical level, and made me a very, very intelligent in those ways, but also made me very smart in terms of empathy and emotional support, and being able to motivate people properly and encourage and incentivize people properly. So that was how I was able to go and really design my environment in a way that I found a lot of enjoyment with. So as far as fuel sources, just remember, people don't survive on food alone. They survive on the things, yes, they put in your body, but also the things that you put in your mind, and also the things that you put into your soul. And for that, I wish you a good evening. Next time, we are going to be talking about mastering the mundane, okay? Mastering the mundane, because a lot of what you're going to need to do now that you've conquered rejection, you've conquered the fear of success and failure, and you have some bits and pieces in order to start engaging with the world in a way that you can actually go and find fuel sources to go fuel your mind, your spirit, and also your body. You're going to need to know how to do things over and over and over and over again, kind of like, while you can talk about something else, you do it without even thinking about it. I'm going to go enjoy these, and I'll see you on the next one.